Beyond the Mirage, shredding Gary Stevenson's slick vision to expose a jagged reality. Picture a world on the brink. Wages stuck in the mud, homes priced like castles for kings, interest rates so low they're practically a whisper. Into this mess strides Gary Stevenson, a former Citibank trader turned YouTube titan, wielding a narrative so slick it gleams. With over 1 million subscribers on his GarysEconomics channel and a best-selling book, The Trading Game, he's not just talking, he's igniting. His pitch is a gut punch. Wealth inequality, where less than 1% of humanity hoards over 50% of the planet's riches, is the sinister engine behind our economic grind. The ultra-wealthy, he says, sit on their piles, spending peanuts, choking demand until wages wither, house prices rocket, and central banks crank rates to zero just to keep the corpse twitching. His fix? Tax the rich until their vaults crack open. Slap a 150-year expiration tag on property ownership to stop wealth from stacking like a dynastic pyramid. And watch the system reboot. Maybe even see wages leap 400% against housing costs if his wildest dreams pan out. Stevenson's no accident. He's a master storyteller, a self-styled renegade who claims to have cracked the code of stagnation post-2008, turning bets on low interest rates into a fortune at Citibank. He spins a yarn of East London grit morphing into financial wizardry, and it's catnip for a generation fed up with a game that feels stacked against them. His videos, 10 to 20 minutes of raw, no-filter truth, slice through the fog, making him a beacon for workers, students, anyone with a rent bill and a grudge. He's tapped into the post-crash rage, the Occupy Wall Street echoes, the visceral loathing of the 1%, and he's riding that wave like a pro. But here's the jagged edge. Stevenson's vision is an economic mirage, a shiny, seductive surface that crumbles when you kick it hard enough. This isn't about muting his megaphone, it's about tearing into his ideas with bare knuckles, testing them against the brutal grind of facts, and showing how they dodge the real monsters lurking in the shadows. This video isn't a polite tap on the shoulder, it's a full-on charge into the deep dark muck. We're not trimming corners or pulling punches, we're maxing out, shredding Stevenson's thesis and stitch together something tougher with no cheap shots at the man, no lies, no calls to torch anything but bad ideas. We'll prove his inequality obsession oversimplifies a tangled mess. His solutions hit a brick wall of reality, and his spotlight leaves the true culprits, tech, money, power, smirking in the dark. Strap in. This is a wild, unfiltered ride to the core of what's wrong and what's next. Stevenson's big swing and the cracks beneath. Let's kick off with the guts of Stevenson's hustle. He's built a fortress on one idea. Wealth inequality is the puppet master jerking the strings of our economic nightmare. The rich, he argues, hog the cash. Oxfam's 2023 report confirms less than 1% hold over 50% of global wealth, and their stingy spending guts demand, leaving the rest of us scrapping for crumbs. Wages? Stuck because no one's buying. House prices? Skyrocketing because the elite snatch up properties like candy. Interest rates? Pinned low because central banks are desperate to juice a system bled dry by poverty. His cure's a double barrel. Tax the wealthy until they're coughing up billions. Cap property at 150 years so inheritance can't pile up forever. Forcing the hoarders to spend and sparking a wage boom. 400% relative to homes, he hints, though he's cagey on the math. It's a hell of a swing, and Stevenson's got the chops to sell it. He's not some ivory tower bore. He's a guy who claims he clawed out of East London's rougher streets, hit the big leagues at Citibank, and cashed in big in 2011 by betting the world would stall. That arc, grit to gold to guru, gives him a raw edge, a voice that cuts through the suits and ties nonsense. His YouTube game is tight. Short, punchy videos that ditch the jargon and hit you where it hurts. He's riding a wave of post-2008 fury, where the 1% became the ultimate boogeyman, and he's got the scars to prove he's been in the ring. But here's where the cracks start spidering out. Popularity doesn't mean precision, and a good story isn't a good blueprint. Stevenson's betting everything on inequality, but the real world's a messier brawl. Technology, globalization, policy, all slugging it out in the same cage. Take wages. Stevenson's got a point. Demand matters, and the rich spending less can dent it. But that's half the fight. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics has tracked real median wages flatlining since the 1970s, and it's not just tight-fisted billionaires. Automation's a relentless bastard. Robots weld cars, AI runs call centers, and McKinsey's 2022 forecast warns 20% of jobs could vanish by 2030. Globalization's a gut shot too. MIT's 2017 study blames China's rise for 2 million lost U.S. jobs, wages bleeding out to cheaper markets. Unions? Crushed. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics shows membership down from 20% in 1983 to 10% in 2023, leaving workers with no leverage. The Economic Policy Institute charts productivity soaring since the 1990s while pay sits still. Capital's eating, labor's starving. Inequality's a player, no question, jacking up the pressure, but it's not the lone kingpin Stevenson crowns it. House prices are another beast. He's got the rich pegged as property hogs, and yeah, they own a chunk. Knight Frank's 2023 report estimates the top 10% hold 60% of U.S. real estate wealth. But that's not the whole storm. In London, the UK Office for National Statistics says prices tripled since 2000, fueled by a 20% population boom and a housing shortage. The Ministry of Housing counts 200,000 new builds a year against a 300,000 need. Zoning's a chokehold. UCL's 2021 study flags 40% of London land as untouchable greenbelt. Low interest rates. Stevenson's own nemesis, pump borrowing, the Bank of England notes, turning auctions into bloodbaths. The wealthy pile in, sure, but supply cramps and city magnetism are the real pistons. He's got a slice of the pie, but the dish is way bigger. Interest rates get murkier. Stevenson says inequality, more poor, less spending, forces central banks to slash rates. It's a thread, but not the tapestry. The Federal Reserve's data shows rates near zero since 2008, chasing 1.5% inflation and jobs, not just poverty's echo. Global cash flows weigh in. China's savings mountain, Japan's aging hoard. The New York Times reported in 2021 that low rates might fuel inequality, juicing stocks. The S&P's up 400% since 2009, and homes, fattening the rich. The Bank for International Settlements ties rates to tech-driven productivity, not just wealth gaps. Stevenson's arrow flies straight, reality ricochets, and he's not tracking the bounce. This isn't about nitpicking, it's about busting open the frame. Stevenson's got a laser on inequality, but the target's a kaleidoscope. Tech's rewiring jobs, global trade's shifting wealth, policies bending rules. Ignore that, and you're swinging at shadows while the real fight rages on. The evidence wall and the practical abyss. So Stevenson's got a theory. Inequality's the devil, and he's got the exorcism kit. Tax the rich, cap property, flip the script. It's a bold flex, but where's the meat? He dangles a 400% wage-to-house price jump like it's a sure thing, but it's smoke. No model, no numbers, just vibes. Let's slam his ideas against the wall of reality and see what sticks. Wealth taxes first. Stevenson wants to crack the elite's vaults, redistribute the loot. History's got receipts, and they're messy. France's INSEE data shows the ISF tax peaked at 4.2 billion euros, 0.2% of GDP, before 10,000 millionaires bailed by 2017, tanking it in 2018. Sweden's attempt, per the OECD, scraped 0.15% GDP before being ditched in 2007, buried by paperwork costs. Norway cranked its rate to 1.1% in 2022, and Bloomberg reports billionaires like Kjell Inge Rucka bolted to Switzerland. Argentina's 2020 millionaire tax nabbed $2.4 billion, 1% GDP, Reuters says. But offshore cash spiked. The lesson? Wealth taxes snag some dough, but the rich are slippery. Planes, passports, and tax havens eat your lunch. Stevenson's counting on a global cage to lock them in, but with US-China saber rattling and EU cracks, that's a fantasy he doesn't map out. The 150-year property cap's a wilder gamble. He wants land, valued at $300 trillion globally, according to the World Bank's 2023 tally, to reset every century and a half, forcing spending over hoarding. Sounds radical, but it's a ghost town of evidence. No one's tried it. Real estate's half the world's wealth. Yank its roots, and values crash. Why buy if it's a ticking clock? Investors would flee, markets would seize. Stevenson says it'll juice demand, but the Tax Justice Network estimates tax avoidance is a $500 billion game. Trusts, shells, offshore tricks would explode. That 400% wage boost? It's a phantom. No data, no parallel. Compare that to Denmark's OECD reported 55% income tax cutting inequality 30%, or Singapore's Housing Development Board pinning prices at 4 times income, with 80% public housing. Stevenson's swinging blind. The real world's got sharper tools. Now the practical grind. Ideas need legs, not just lungs. Wealth taxes hit a valuation swamp. Private firms, art, yachts shift worth daily. And economists Saez and Zuckman say evasion guts US yields 30%. Global sinks a unicorn. Russia, China, the US aren't playing nice. The property cap's a logistical hellscape, tracking 150 years of deeds through wars, sales, divorces. You'd need a bureaucracy bigger than the problem. It'd spook investment too. An IMF study from 2019 ties secure tenure to 5% GDP growth. Stevenson wants a spending spree, but he'd get a ghost town. Consume now, build nothing that lasts. The Japan Real Estate Institute notes Tokyo's loose zoning keeps homes sane, and the US Patent and Trademark Office says R&D credits lift patents 20%. Those deliver. His don't. Stevenson's hustle leans on his tail. East London to Citibank, nailing 2011 stagnation bet. The Financial Times says some ex-colleagues call his top trader brag a stretch, and the Daily Mail quotes his mom saying poverty wasn't that deep. This isn't a dunk, it's a footnote. He's a public voice, fair game for a look, but his ideas stand or flop on their own juice, not his resume. The real kicker? His clarity's a trap. Blaming the rich, pushing taxes. It's brain food. As Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow explains, we love simple answers for a messy world. In a TikTok age, it's dynamite. But that's the hitch. The Bank for International Settlements says central banks dumped $20 trillion since 2008. Oxford Economics predicts AI's eating 20% of jobs by 2030. And Open Secrets tallies US lobbying at $4.1 billion. Stevenson's got a spark. The fire's way bigger. The systemic rot, and the road beyond. Inequality's real. It's a gut punch. But it's not the root. It's the rot spreading from deeper cuts. Federal Reserve data shows rates at 0 since 2008 ballooned wealth gaps. Gini hit 0.85. McKinsey forecasts AI's slated to add $13 trillion to GDP by 2030, mostly to capital owners. The Huron report says China's billionaire count rocketed from 0 in 2000 to 1,058 by 2023, globalization's gift. The U.S. Census Bureau notes housing lags 1.5 million units a year. Stevenson's lens is tight. The beast is sprawling. Tech, money, power, all chewing the wires. The risk? His Mirage skews us off track. Pushes taxes, his caps, and pitch book, says venture capital dropped 30% in high-tax France, while the real gears grind on. It's a loud distraction, firing up the crowd but missing the engine room. We need more than noise. We need a wrench in the works. Try modest global taxes. Economist Thomas Piketty suggests 0.5% could raise $200 billion to fund schools, where Finland's PISA scores soar 20%. Tie rates to wages, not just inflation. The European central banks floated it. Build like Germany. Destatis says 300,000 homes yearly, cut rents 15%. Spread ownership. The National Center for Employee Ownership says stock plans lift wages 8%. Bust monopolies. The Federal Communications Commission says antitrust cut U.S. telecom prices 20%. That's not a mirage. That's muscle. Stevenson's got a spark. Inequality's a wound, and he's poking it hard. But his vision's a slick slide, not a ladder. It oversells, underbuilds, and dodges the systemic rot we've got to rip out. The fight's not just the rich, it's the machine minting them, a tangle of tech, cash, and clout. Ditch the dazzle, grab the gears, and let's get real. This isn't about hype, it's about hacking the hell out of what's broken.